Draw here. So what I would say is that, in my opinion, I think Jan's mental here was that I'm going to go g3, and if Magnus has something that I missed, I'm just going to lose the game. But I don't really want to play something that's completely flat and drawish here. I want to try and spice it up. And if it's a draw, it's a draw. But if there's something more, so be it. That's what I read. That's what I read Jan's mental situation to be at this point. So g3 is played here, and of course Magnus takes the knight. Pawn takes rook. Queen takes g4. And now king to f1 is played here by Jan. Magnus plays queen h3 check. Very strong move. And Jan goes king g1. Now, he could have played king e2 here, but after king e2, e takes f2, you're unable to take the pawn, because after queen h2, you'd lose your queen. And if you play rook to f1 here, black can go, I think both knight d5 and probably knight f5, both moves work, and black is completely winning because you have knight g3 check to fork the king and the rook. You have rook e8 check. You're also threatening queen e3 checkmate in 1, and white has no way of surviving this without giving up a lot of material. So instead, he plays king g1. Now here, Magnus plays an interesting move. He plays knight to f5. Now, during the game, I was very surprised because Magnus thought for quite a while before playing this, but I felt that e takes f2 was simpler, because after queen takes f2, you can do the rook lift with rook to d6 here, and this position is just completely winning. For example, say you play queen g2, I go rook to g6, pinning the king and the queen, and after queen takes g6, knight takes g6, black is simply winning since you have a queen and a knight, or the two rooks here. And additionally, let's say white plays queen h2 here, which is another move. You can go rook g6 check, king h1, and now queen f3. This is also checkmate. Queen to g2, queen takes g2. The rook guards the queen. So I was very surprised when Magnus didn't do this, because to me, this idea with e takes f2 and rook d6 seemed like the cleanest way to win. Maybe someone will ask him about why he didn't play that later on, but it just was a little bit shocking to me, because that seemed like the quickest and easiest way to win on the spot. So knight f5 is played here. Oh, actually, someone points it out. There is another line, actually, which is king g1 takes queen f2. And after rook d6, you can play queen f1 here. Now, I did play this out against Stockfish, and the easiest way to win here is rook g6, king f2. You go queen h2, king f3, rook g3, king e4. And now the very nice move, queen h5, which threatens a couple of checkmates. Let's say white plays a move like d6. You can now go queen f5 check, king d4, and queen d5, which is just checkmate. Rook covers all the squares on the third rank. King can't go anywhere. And if white tries to move like f5, which I believe is the only move to stop checkmate, after queen h4, let's say you go king to e5 here, black can play rook g4, and now checkmate is unavoidable. If you play, well, let's just say you play rook e4, there's queen f6 mate. So the only way you stop this mate is to play f6, but now black can still just go queen g3 check, or queen h2, and after queen f4, you take with mate again. So queen f1 is the last line, but it doesn't really do a whole lot. And if you were to play queen f4 here, black can go rook g4, and that's also going to win the game. Instead, Magnus plays knight f5, and so Jan goes d6 here, and now Magnus plays knight h4, threatening checkmate multiple ways. Knight f3 and queen g2 are both checkmate. Pawn takes pawn is played here, queen to g3, king f1, and now Magnus plays knight f3. Very nice move. While this is perhaps not the most technically, maybe technical is the wrong word. While this is perhaps not the smoothest or easiest way to win, it's good enough to win. And one thing that I cannot stress enough in the game of chess is when you get a winning position, it doesn't matter how you win the game. As long as you find a winning variation, that's all that matters. So you don't have to find the best line. And so Magnus plays knight f3, queen f2, queen to h3 check. Not queen takes queen, by the way, because after king takes queen, knight takes rook. White has a very devilish trick with pawn takes pawn. If you take the rook, I make a queen. And if you go rook f8 here, I now have rook to d8. Pawn supports the rook, and or I'm going to make a queen on c8 next move. So after queen f2, queen h3 is played by Magnus, queen to g2. And now after trades, you take the rook with a check here on e1, so white cannot take the pawn. So rook takes e1 is played, rook takes d6, and now we reach an endgame where black is simply up one pawn, and especially with the outside pawn here on the h file, it should be technically winning.